Hello everyone, my name is Thomas Lasowski and I'm the Compliance and Risk Manager in the Office of Compliance and Risk Management within the Office of the Chancellor. Today we're going to spend a few minutes talking about risk management for student organizations, and by the end of this presentation I hope you'll leave with a better understanding of how to protect your members, your organization, and the events that make your organization successful. Today we're going to cover four main areas. First, we'll talk about why risk management matters and some basic definitions. Second, we'll discuss the foundation of the state's liability coverage and who is covered under the program. Third, we'll focus on what you can do moving forward, including implementing practical strategies to reduce risk at your events and/or considering insurance when appropriate. And lastly, we'll discuss what to do when an injury or loss occurs. I want to start with one of the most important messages from today's presentation. Risk management is not about saying no, it's about helping organizations safely accomplish their goals. The purpose isn't to stop you from doing creative, engaging, and memorable events. It's to help you think ahead, identify potential problems, and make reasonable decisions so your events can be successful. So why are we talking about risk management? Well, risk is a part of every organization and every event. Whether you're hosting a fundraiser, bringing speakers to campus, organizing travel, or planning a social event, there are always risks involved. The goal isn't to eliminate every possible risk, because if we tried to do that, we'd never do anything. The goal is to manage risk appropriately. Good risk management protects not only your members, but your participants and guests, your organization's reputation and ability to continue operating, and ultimately the institution as a whole. Now let's define a few terms. Liability is the quality or state of being legally responsible for something. Risk is simply the possibility of loss or injury. Risk management is the systematic process of identifying, assessing, and mitigating threats or uncertainties that can affect your organization. And insurance is a financial tool that may help cover certain losses or claims. As we dive more into this presentation, you'll notice that insurance is just one piece of risk management. It is not the entire strategy. To build a foundation for the rest of our discussion, let's talk about the state's liability coverage. The state of Wisconsin generally provides liability protection to university employees and agents acting within the scope of their duties. However, most students and most student organizations are not considered university employees or agents. As a result, members and organizations are usually not covered by the state's liability protection program. Now there are exceptions, and coverage may apply in certain circumstances involving student government, student employees, internships and similar programs, volunteers or joint sponsored events, and during the authorized use of university vehicles. However, these situations are very fact-specific, so if you're unsure whether your organization falls into one of these categories, please reach out to my office for guidance. So to be safe, assume you do not have liability coverage until you've confirmed it through my office, through a national organization or similar entity, or through coverage you've acquired yourself. If it's clear that you do not have coverage and you determine that insurance is appropriate, we have two options available. Firstly, the TULIP program provides standard event coverage for activities such as seminars, festivals, concerts, and similar events, although there are exclusions for certain high-risk activities. And secondly, the URMIA Camps Insurance Program provides coverage for events involving minor participants. You are not limited to these two options. However, they generally provide shorter-term coverage for fairly low rates compared to an annual insurance policy that you can get through an insurance company like State Farm, for example. So when should your organization consider obtaining insurance? Simply put, when activities involve elevated risks. Some examples may include physical activities, inflatable or amusement activities, events involving minors, travel activities, food and beverage events, especially those involving alcohol, large public events, and activities involving specialized hazards such as lab demonstrations, fireworks, or activities involving heights. You should also consider insurance when a third party requires proof of coverage, or when your organization could not absorb the financial consequences of a potential claim. If you're unsure whether insurance is appropriate, ask yourselves these questions. Could someone reasonably be injured? Could someone else's property be damaged? Is the event open to the public or non-members? Are minors participating? Is a venue or vendor requiring proof of insurance? Would a lawsuit or claim create a significant financial burden for the organization? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, your organization should consider acquiring liability coverage. And remember, you don't have to figure it out alone. Please reach out to my office for consultation. Now, I know this slide is repetitive, but it's intentional. Insurance is a tool. It does not prevent injuries. It does not improve supervision. It does not eliminate liability. It simply helps address the financial consequences if something goes wrong. The strongest organizations focus first on preventing problems and reducing risk so that their liability coverage hopefully doesn't even come into play. So regardless of whether you have insurance, your focus when planning the event should be on risk management. Before every event, you can ask yourself these simple 4 questions. What could go wrong? How likely is it? How serious could the consequences be? And what can we do to reduce those risks? I strongly encourage organizations to build these questions into their planning process, as it will help reduce the risk of injuries or losses occurring. So what can we do to reduce the risks? There are a number of practical strategies student organizations can use. We can ensure participants sign hold harmless forms, which help participants understand and acknowledge the inherent risks associated with an activity. While these forms are not a magic shield against liability, they can be one important part of an overall risk management strategy. We can also provide education and training so that participants, volunteers, and event staff understand their roles and responsibilities. We can ensure adequate supervision during events so someone is available to monitor activities and respond if concerns arise. We can develop emergency plans before an incident occurs so we're not trying to figure things out in the middle of a crisis. We can look for safer alternatives for higher risk activities and put procedures in place to help keep participants and guests safe. And finally, we can follow university policies and seek guidance when we have questions. Now, none of these strategies are particularly complicated, but together they can make a tremendous difference. Now let's walk through a quick example. Imagine your organization wants to host a plate smashing event, right? What could go wrong? Participants could cut themselves or get pieces of the broken plates in their eyes. Passerbys could also slip on broken pieces or be injured if debris isn't contained. Now, how likely is it? Well, without any planning, I would argue that it's probably fairly high. How serious could the consequences be? Anywhere from minor injuries to more serious harm. And so what can we do to reduce the risks? We could contain the broken plates inside garbage bags. We could require appropriate eye protection, section off the area so that others don't accidentally enter the event space. We can ensure a first aid kit is readily available if needed, and we can also require participants to complete the hold harmless forms. You'll notice that the answer wasn't don't do the event. The answer was how can we do it more safely? Now let's say you implemented those strategies to reduce your risk and even acquired event insurance through Tulip, but someone still cut their finger open during the event. What do you do? If an injury or property loss occurs, we should address the immediate safety concerns first. If the person cut their hand on a piece of broken plate that had spilled out of their garbage bag, ensure all remaining loose pieces are safely picked up and contained. Following that, we should address the injury that occurred, which may require contacting emergency services if necessary. Small cuts most likely don't require calling 911. However, I encourage you all to use your best judgment. In this scenario, we would most likely be able to disinfect and bandage the cut with the materials in the first aid kit that was readily available. We also need to remember to document what occurred while the details are fresh and report the incident promptly to the appropriate institutional offices, including my Office of Compliance and Risk Management, as well as Student Activities and Involvement. And by promptly reporting, that allows the institution to provide assistance and respond appropriately. And to close, I want to leave you with this. Risk management isn't about preventing student organizations from doing great things. It's about helping you accomplish those things responsibly. Understand your coverage status, think through the risks associated with your activities, implement reasonable safeguards, and ask questions early. The sooner that you reach out, the the more likely my office is to be able to fully and effectively assist you and your organization. If you ever need assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.